Welcome everybody to Cuisine of Different Cultures. We are going to learn to make a beet soup today with Sandra. Um, I am with the Atlantic Institute, and the Atlantic Institute is about promoting positive dialogue between different religions, cultures, meeting your next door neighbor, just having those positive conversations and learning about other people's lives and cultures. I'm going to show you a short 2-minute video about the Atlantic Institute, and then we will turn it over to our instructor for the day. Oh shoot.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to hit the sound thing. Share sound makes it better. There we go.
The Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting harmonious coexistence between peoples of various cultures, faiths, and backgrounds. We seek this goal through peaceful dialogue, education initiatives, and community organization. Our dialogue events bring together experts, community and faith leaders, and knowledge seekers to address social issues that affect us all. We feel dialogue is the most important element in peaceful coexistence, so we try and maintain several panel discussions, TED Talk events, and book clubs throughout the year. These events touch on social issues, race relations, and cultural understanding and are a mainstay of our programming. The Atlantic Institute's education events are extremely important to our mission of understanding. We want to promote socially forward critical thinking to students of all ages. To that end, we have developed programs that seek to grow the creative spirit of students and help them think about their communities and the world around them. Our Future Leaders of Dialogue event brings together nominated elite students to learn from each other as well as political and business leaders. Our art and essay contest gives students a theme about important societal issues and allows them to create wonderful works of art and writing while steering their minds towards improving their world. We're always seeking ways to educate youths and adults in order to make a peaceful world for all of us. Our community events are designed to transform neighbors into friends and groups of people into a community. By associating with other nonprofits or by our own initiative, we are always trying to discover new avenues to improve our neighborhoods, places of worship, and community centers. We host cooking demonstrations of food from other cultures, work with various nonprofits to help elevate the work of others, and try to find a way to make the lives of those who are disenfranchised or marginalized better. Building a more peaceful world starts in our backyards, so we are dedicated to improving our communities and associations. The Atlantic Institute is always seeking like-minded volunteers and collaborators. If you would like to learn more, find volunteer opportunities, or just want to chat with our staff, please visit our website at www.atlanticinstitutesc.org or follow us on Facebook. We will never run out of fun, educational, peaceful events, so come join us to help make this world a better place full of understanding and unity.
All right. All right, I am now going to turn this over to our instructor, Sandra, and I'm going to pin her. Oh, did the wrong one. Thank you, Sandra. It's all you now.
All right, thank you. Sorry, just in my view, your picture's still, do I need to pin myself as well?
Nope.
All
No,
right.
it's because it's your view. Yeah.
Okay, I have it. So hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sandy Musial, and it's nice to see some friendly faces out there in the audience. So I have a Ukrainian heritage. I live in Rhode Island, but all 4 of my grandparents immigrated from Ukraine around 1911. And I was raised with a pretty strong Ukrainian heritage, going to Ukrainian church in Boston every single Sunday and celebrating the Ukrainian holidays, including Ukrainian Easter and Ukrainian Christmas. This is my mother's embroidered Ukrainian shirt. And this is a Ukrainian vase and the Ukrainian flag. So, I just am really happy to be invited to the Atlantic Institute to share this Ukrainian recipe called borscht, which is beet soup that I grew up eating beets and buckwheat and onions and mushrooms. Those are all like, Ukrainian foods that that are celebrated. So I'm just gonna tilt this, but just let me know if you need a better view. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. So for the beet soup, I'm gonna start with an onion. And a lot of soups are started with an onion. And there's different ways to dice an onion, but what I'm gonna do is I like to score it just like that, like 4 or 5 times. This is a really big onion, so to make these just little wedges, and then it makes it easier to kind of pull that paper off, because sometimes that's hard to separate. And while I'm doing this, I'm just going to share a little bit about what I do, because yes, I'm a doctor and I've been a pediatrician and an obesity medicine specialist in Rhode Island for 30 years. And during that time, I was pretty frustrated that not more was being done to educate our patients about the importance of food and health. So I started an organization called Plant Docs, and our website is plantdocs.com, where you can learn more about the importance of food and health, including recipes like this. So now I've got all that skin off. I cut off the top and the bottom, and I'm just going to dice it. And for safety reasons, anything round, it's best to put the cut side down. And then this is, there's a million ways to cut an onion, but I'm going to go and make a bunch of wedges, because the onion is already naturally concentrically cut into all those layers. And another tip that I always forget is if you get a bowl of water, it helps make it so you don't cry so much. I have very sensitive eyes, and I really think it helps. So once you have all those wedges, then I'm going to turn it the other way and cut it this way. And then it's really like it's been cut 3 times because of the concentric cuts. And I'm going to just throw in little fun facts as I go about food as medicine, which is the whole field that I've been diving into in the last 5 years. Water's not really working. An onion, before we started, if you smell it, it barely smells like anything. And have you ever thought about why, when you start cutting it, it has this very powerful smell and makes your eyes water? All right, before I answer that, let's see if I can do this. That kind of blocks it. All right, I'm going to do this so you can kind of see both. I'm going to turn my burner, whoops, wrong one, on just like low medium and start heating that burner up. And the other important fact, before I get back to the onion thing, one of the things we do at Plant Docs is cook without oil. So almost everybody would start a soup by pouring a bunch of oil in there, including most Ukrainians. But in the light of trying to help all Americans, many Americans with their heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, weight, type 2 diabetes issues, which are caused in part by excess oils and fats and calories in our diet, I have adjusted these traditional Ukrainian recipes to be healthier. And we're going to cook with no oil. So still heating up. To get things to stick less, you want to have a nice preheated pan. And I'm using this nice heavy bottom stock pot. So onions are in the allium family, which includes garlic, onions, leeks, shallots, scallions, and chives. And as you chop up this onion, you're breaking the cell wall and releasing this enzyme that activates the potent phytonutrients that are so beneficial to human health, helping to prevent cancer. Onions are very powerful anti-cancer properties. A lot of research is being done with garlic and onions, and also for lowering cholesterol and type 2 diabetes. Onions are just a powerhouse of nutrition. So there, diced onion. All right, I'm just gonna throw it in the pot. And no olive oil, no other oil. A lot of people panic at this point. Oh my God, is it gonna work? It is, trust me. All right. So you can literally do nothing. Just, I'm gonna get a flat spatula and move those around. You can just leave them, and as they start to cook and heat up, they release their own juices. So I'm just gonna leave it for now. So the next thing I'm gonna do while those are cooking is get my celery and my carrots ready. You know, a lot of people cook with all mise en place. I like to be really efficient, so I have to wait now anyway for the onions to cook, so why not use that time to get my carrot ready? It's just, a lot of people find it disorganized, but it just works for me. You don't have to peel the carrot. If it's organic, the skin has a lot of fiber in it. For me, it's a texture thing. I just don't care for the skin of the carrots. You could use this in a stock. All right, let's check on those onions. Nothing's sticking so far. The heavy bottom pan helps with that. So there's different kinds of borscht recipes. And again, because it's round, I'm gonna cut it first into flat pieces and put all the flat sides down. We don't want things rolling when you're cutting. And just to really preserve your fingers, I always try to keep my hand up whenever possible. So some purists like only beets in their borscht. And some recipes, I did a whole bunch of research looking at a bunch of different borscht recipes. Some people add lima beans, green beans, cabbage. My mom feels like it should be, she actually doesn't even put carrots in hers. She just does the beets and the onions, the garlic, and the celery. But I love the nutrients in the carrots that it adds. So let's see how we're doing. So they're starting to get a little bit of brown on some parts of the pan over in this area. But as I move around the moist onions, it's going away. And that's that caramelized flavor from the onions, which is going to add a nice layer to this borscht. So that's good. I'm going to let them go another minute before I add my carrots.
She's gonna share her website address and stuff a little later on the screen. So
Say that again?
I wanted you to put your website address here, and I said you were gonna share it on your screen in a little bit.
Yeah, it's easy. It's Plant Docs. That's my website and my email, Plant Docs, because I cook with only plants. I'm not vegan, but I'm whole food plant-based, which is a healthful approach to eating based on the latest science. So If it starts to stick, which it's not doing, you can add a little veggie broth, but this is looking good. Loving it. There's nothing like the smell of cooking onions. Oh my God. And to me, it smells Ukrainian. I wonder, like, if Italian people start their cooking with onions, if they feel like it smells Italian. But for me, when I'm cooking onions, it's like Ukrainian. All right, so that's still going. I'm just gonna dice up these 2 celery stalks, which also, I was raised, I just remember learning that celery is like, you burn more calories eating it, so it fills you up. It's so much more than that. All of these plant foods have gifts for your body that help your cells function at their most optimal. So celery has special gifts, phytonutrients, antioxidants not found in other plants. So add it. It's good for you. Fiber. All right, now it's starting to stick a little bit. There's a little more brown. Let me see if you can see. See that little brown that's starting on the pan? They're getting a little more translucent. So I'm just gonna, I don't have to, but just gonna add a little bit of veggie broth. And as far as health consciousness in veggie broth, you just want to be mindful of the sodium concentration. This was the only one at this particular farm stand I went to, so they did not have a low sodium option, but this one is 530 milligrams per cup, which is a lot. You want to try to find one that's like 200 or somewhere around there. So I just added probably a 1/4 cup. And now I'm going to add my celery and carrots. And this is a French thing too, right? It's called, I'm going to screw up the pronunciation, mirepoix, perhaps. But it's the base of starting a soup with onions, carrots, and celery. All right, good. Now, while those are cooking, we're going to get the beets ready. So many people buy beets and throw out the tops. And I'm like, oh, because they're so nutritious and so good for you, you never want to throw out the tops. The leafy greens are some of the most nutrient dense foods on our planet. So the way I do this is I'm going to cut it like here because, oh, and first of all, I swear these were like thrown on the beach before I got them. They were so sandy. I washed them like 4 times, but most of the dirt and sand ends up down here. So I usually cut them like 1 inch above the beetroot. And I set my greens and stems aside. And then I cut off this, kind of dirty part where there might be more dirt. So it looks like this. And then I cut out that little root at the bottom that's all hairy. And I've already washed them. And then you can either peel them. This is a potato peeler, which works well, but a little slow going. Or you can use a knife, but you tend to get too much of the beet off. I do think you need to peel them because the skin is very tough and textural. So if you wanted to just cook beets to add to a salad, one way to do it is to just prep the beet like this without peeling it, put them in a saucepan covered in water and boil them or simmer them until they're tender, which takes a while, maybe like 40 minutes, 45, maybe even more, depending on the size. Sometimes I cut them up, but then the skin just sloughs off. And you end up with fingers like this. So that is that one. These 2 I've already peeled. Here's another one that I cut the top off. So you could do it with a knife like this, just to show you another way, but I feel like I'm getting too much of the beetroot itself. I'm going to go back to my potato peeler. So beets are really good for your heart. If you guys want to learn fun facts, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's Plant Doc. I just posted a thing about how beets are good for your heart. They help lower blood pressure and cholesterol. And one of the things that they're very potent in is the ability to boost your own body's nitric oxide. Not to get too geeky or sciencey, but nitric oxide is one of the most potent vasodilators in our body that we make ourselves. And a vasodilator is something that relaxes your blood vessels and lowers your blood pressure. And the most potent nitric oxide producers are kale and Swiss chard, spinach, arugula, collard greens, bok choy, all those leafy greens. They're so good for you, and they're really powerful nitric oxide producers. But weirdly, the beetroot, the red part, in addition to, look at all this, is a potent nitric oxide producer. All right, I think before the beets, we're gonna add the garlic. You don't want to add garlic too soon, or it can get bitter if you like put it in the very beginning. So this calls for 4 cloves of garlic. And you know, there's some like humongo sized ones and some tiny sized ones. So just use your judgment on what you think. If you love garlic, add more. Not so much, you can add less. I usually use a wooden spatula to mash them and break that kind of coating and shell without, seen people do that with a knife, and I think, ooh, you could cut yourself. So I like my flat wooden method. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit so nothing burns or sticks. It's starting to stick a little bit, so I'm just gonna add a little more veggie broth as I kind of move those around. The veggies are softening. So like maybe another splash. We're gonna end up adding that whole box, so it doesn't really matter. So garlic is also in the allium family and has that similar property where like garlic like this, you know, it doesn't smell hardly at all. But as soon as you start chopping it and mashing it, it releases the enzymes that activate the phytonutrients that are so beneficial to our body. And garlic is probably the most studied allium vegetable of all of them. And it's been found to have like antibacterial properties dating back thousands of years. They've found it in like King Tut's tomb. It's also very anti-inflammatory, and it's been studied in cancer and lowering lipids and weight loss and metabolism. And part of the reason for that is because it's a prebiotic as well. I don't know if you guys know what a prebiotic is, but it's different from a probiotic. It's the kind of foods that feed your gut bacteria as opposed to the bacteria itself. So it's got a certain kind of fiber in it that is good for your gut bacteria and helps change your gut bacteria to one little guys in there that help with metabolism, help digest your food properly, and help prevent leaky gut syndrome and help boost your metabolism and your energy. The bacteria in our gut has a lot more power than I think people have realized in the past. It's even integral with mental health and aging and gene expression. So, all right, I've added my garlic. I'm just gonna rinse my hands, they're all sticky. All right, so now I'm gonna do the beets. So this is how my mom does it. She likes to do sticks. So let me see if I can cut them like this. Yeah, they do have a little flat bottom, so. And then I'm gonna stack 2 or 3 of these in a row to make sticks. Nitric oxide producing sticks. And these are gonna cook in the soup with everything else. I've seen recipes where people shred it. I like to have it cooked in the broth, not to put them in already cooked, because as they cook, they release some of their flavor and becomes part of the soup. And the good news about beets, even though like my hands are, red, it comes out. So I can wear this like heirloom shirt and not worry. Although quite honestly, I have no idea how to wash it with all that embroidery thread. So if anyone knows, let me know. All right, there we go. And I just bought one bunch. This bunch came with 4 kind of medium-sized beets, but I actually had to go to 3 stores to find a beautiful bouquet of beets with the greens. So many times they chop up the greens. They think people don't want them, which they don't most of the time. But I think it's just because people don't know how valuable they are. But at one store I went to, a bunch of beets was just 2 humongo beets that were like the size of that onion I cut up. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't feel good about those beets. I think the bigger they are, like a lot of vegetables, they get a little more fibrous and a little less tasty. And the little mini vegetables, the little baby vegetables, the baby beets, baby spinach, baby everything just kind of tastes better. It's like more nutrient dense. So I went with 4 smaller beets. And now I'm really efficient and make a mess. All right, look at all those sticks. It's good. Come here, no one's getting away. So now, we just make sure I haven't forgot anything. So we did onions, garlic, and carrots, and celery. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. And now I'm gonna, this is saying add the beet stems first, but to me that it doesn't matter. It all just has to get cooked, right? So at this point, I'm putting in my beets and I'm gonna add the broth and some of the spices so it can all start doing its thing together. So I'm gonna add the rest of the box. How beautiful, the color of those beets. How can that not be good for you? So when you talk about eating the rainbow, the whole purpose behind eating the rainbow is getting in all the different colors, which offer all the different phytonutrients for your body, all the different gifts. I'm just gonna wash my hands a little bit, a little less red. So in our soup, we have, kind of the yellow-ish onion, the orange carrots, the green celery, the red beets, and I'm going to turn the heat up and bring it to a boil again, and then we're gonna simmer it. So now I'm gonna chop up. There's two ways to do this. The fussier way is separating the leaves from the stems, which I might do just to prove a point that it doesn't take long. So when this is very similar to Swiss chard. If you got anybody gardeners out there, the seeds are very similar. And I do the same thing with Swiss chard and bok choy. This one's kind of yellow. Bye-bye. So you want to eat the stems of bok choy, of Swiss chard, of beets, and you just pull on the green and pull the stem off. So let's just show the non-fussy way. You know, I would take my bunch like that and just chop off the stems. You know, for the purpose of what we're doing, that's fine. So I'm going to do, I usually err on not fussy. All right. So, oh, the only thing I didn't do that I meant to do first was the very bottom of the stems, you know, can be a little dry. So I'm just going to cut off that bottom part and discard that. So I'm going to line up my stems. Get rid of that bottom part. And I love this different culture thing. I love learning about foods of different cultures. One fascinating thing, when I spent some time in Nepal, they eat things in other cultures that we don't necessarily eat, and you know, not for any like sensical reason. It's just kind of the way it is. But they eat pumpkin leaves and stems. And I was like, what? Those hairy, prickly things that grow? Like, I would never have thought that was edible. So while I'm chatting, I'm just gonna cut these into like 1/2-inch pieces. And they were delicious. And these might also seem like raw, like really hard and not edible, but they're delicious. And they're packed full of phytonutrients. Look at that. Delicious. Yeah, so the pumpkin leaves and stems were amazing. All right. So I'm gonna mix in those stems. The greens, I'm gonna wait on because I don't want to kill them by overcooking the greens. Let me just add in the spices now. So we're gonna do 2 bay leaves. And I had run out of bay leaves and we just got this new brand. And I was really struck by how incredibly delicious it smells. And I don't know if my other ones were just really old, but I was like, I've not there anyway. They smell amazing. I'm going to put 2 in, and these are the brand from this is Morton and Bassett Spices, M&B, out of San Francisco. It's organic. They're from Turkey, and I don't know, they smell incredible. I got them at Whole Foods, in case anyone is wondering. I'm also going to add 2 cups of V8 juice, which I don't know, they probably don't have V8 juice in Ukraine. This is low sodium, but this is the way my mother did it and her mother did it. You could add alternatively tomato juice or canned tomatoes. That would be fine. But there's that element of this tomato product. And another food is medicine another fun tip. When you have greens like this, these greens are full of calcium and iron, but in order to get the most calcium and iron out of them, you want to pair it with a little acid. So the tomato does that job. My mom says they also sometimes add like a tablespoon or two of vinegar. So I'm gonna do that too. You could use balsamic or red wine vinegar. I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of balsamic because it does have a flavor to it. Maybe just like 2 teaspoons. We can taste it after and see. Let's see. I haven't added any salt and pepper yet. I'm always mindful of the sodium, and that broth is way more sodium than I usually buy the low sodium one. So I'm not gonna add any salt. I think this is gonna be delicious and have enough flavor with everything we're adding. We're also gonna add dill. But I have, look at this, $3, this bouquet of dill. I can't believe it. Like, sometimes you buy that tiny little package for $5, and I was like, really, $3 at this farm stand? So I'm keeping it fresh by literally putting it in water. And I'm actually gonna see if I can root it and then plant it in my garden, and then I'll have an endless supply of dill. So, doop-a-doo, veggies, beet greens. So I don't want to add fresh herbs. You don't want to add too soon. So I'm going to wait on that. And this still hasn't come up to a simmer yet. To help it along, I'm just going to cover it. So we'll increase the heat, and I will prepare the greens. So these are just the beet greens from 4 different beets. I've taken out the yellow ones, the brown ones, the, whatever, and just left with these beautiful greens. And I typically just kind of roll them up so it's all contained in a bundle like that. And then start at one end and cut like 1/4-inch slices, like a chiffonade. You could do 1/2-inch slices, you could just chop it. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And then I go the other way. And that's that. So the one of the magical things about greens, just like the onions and the garlic, is when you chop it, it's releasing certain things. And this is not a cruciferous green, neither is Swiss chard. But when you chop, this is just a fun fact about kale, collards, bok choy. When you chop it, you're releasing an enzyme that activates the sulforaphane. And I don't know if you've heard about sulforaphane in broccoli, cauliflower, kale. It's this powerful anti-cancer molecule that when you chop it, it activates. So I'm sure, and I can't spew out any nerdy fact about beet green, but I'm sure there's magic happening right now as you chop it, and the cell walls are broken and things are activated. So anyway, we got that going. So let me check. I think I hear it boiling. There's a couple ways, and this is optional. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it down to more like a simmer and just make sure nothing's sticking. Now it feels great. Different ways you can thicken it. Some people add rice to this in the beginning. So you do the onions and the celery, and you put in some broth, and then you add like a 1/2 cup of rice, and you cook that first, and it makes this thick slurry, and then you throw the beets and everything in, or you can just throw in the rice after when it's cooking. But one thing I just want to share is a little food is medicine. Like when you're eating plant-based, this is like the power plate to kind of the trick to eating a balanced meal. You want to combine fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. So in our dish here, we have a lot of vegetables, and we have, I count the tomatoes as a fruit. And then I'm going to use cannellini beans to add protein to this borscht and to thicken it up. If you added rice, you would be, adding this component too. But we're going to make it, if you ate it with a slice of pumpernickel bread, you've got your whole plate. And it's just one way to think about food. So I like these cannellini beans for adding to soups. They don't have a lot of taste, so they don't take away from the flavor of the soup. So I'm just rinsing them. And the reason I'm rinsing them, one reason is sodium. Hang on, be right back. One reason is sodium, but the other reason is that when they're sitting there and they're cooked in the can, they have this polysaccharide coating that is less digestible. And so sometimes it gives people bloating and uncomfortable gas. So rinsing your beans helps with that. Even soaking them, the canned ones, for like 15 minutes and then rinsing them again. So that's just a little trick. And I'm going to prepare my dill. So I don't want the thick stems in it, so I'm just going to take off the tops. And the recipe just calls for a tablespoon of dry dill or 2 tablespoons of fresh dill. And I love dry dill, but there's nothing like fresh dill. It gives it a special flavor. So I'm just kind of ripping the little fluffy ends off that. And then we'll see if we're getting close to 2 tablespoons. And then it's nice to save some of the pretty little, like save like a couple of these little branches. So when you plate it, you can like put that on the top and it looks really pretty. All right, so we're gonna just chop this up. Oh, I want to share, I can chop it with a knife, but I just want to share one of my fun kitchen tools. Have you guys seen these herb scissors? They're really fun. You just literally cut your herbs like this. It helps to get rid of some of the stems too. But I have a lot to do, so I think if you just wanted to put this over a bowl of soup and go cha 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 cha, then it's fun. You're like easily cutting. It's got 5 or 6 blades, and you get a lot done at once. And then it has this handy thing to kind of clean all the pieces out. So that's fun. But I'm gonna cut the rest because I think it'll be quicker for what we're doing. And now while I'm doing that, I'm gonna add my greens. I can hear it boiling away. Oh my gosh, look at that. So I'm gonna turn that down and add all these greens. They're not gonna take long to cook. If you overcook greens, you can remove some of the nutrition, but I like them a little tender, but still bright green. I don't want them to turn that dull gray-green color. It's more beautiful. And the only thing we have to do is remove the bay leaves when we're serving this. Try to remember that. All right. So now I'm gonna This is just using the knife as a pivot. I keep my fingers up, and just move it in different directions to get a really fine chop on the dill. This looks like way more than 2 tablespoons, but we'll see. So just 1. All right, it's like 2 heaping. So perfect. So for my little, so this is good just the way it is, right? You don't have to thicken it. I do love adding the white beans to soups. I make an asparagus soup that's just like onions, tarragon, garlic, asparagus, and veggie broth. But it's kind of watery. So like I love adding a can of beans. It's giving you all that protein, the fiber, the nutrition of legumes. It's our healthiest, most economical source of protein on planet Earth is the beans. So I try to get in a serving of beans 3 times a day. So what I'm gonna do is take my beans that I washed and put them in my blender. And I'm gonna take some of the soup, not the bay leaf. And I really just want the broth, but whatever, it doesn't matter. There's some carrots in there. I can get some more broth. So I can blend this up with some liquid. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go blend this. And then add it back to the soup. Steaming hot. So it's made this beet colored slurry of beans. Hang on, I need to go get my spatula. And it's the Vitamixer, you know, purees it really well, really smooth and fine. It might change the texture of the borscht a tiny bit. I do it all the time, so I'm just kind of used to it. Mix that all in. The only thing I haven't added is pepper, I believe. And you just want to cook it until the veggies are tender. So I'm gonna check my carrots. Like a bigger chunk to. Yeah, so that's fork tender. So that's done. So I'm gonna put some fresh ground black pepper in it. And then people, you know, can add their own if they want more at the table. I'm gonna keep those bay leaves in there probably until tomorrow, so their flavor can keep coming out. You could put this on low and let it simmer a little longer just to let the flavors meld a little more. And also, you know, when you let it cool and then put it in the refrigerator, like all soups, it tastes even better the next day because all the the flavors come out and kind of join together in the broth. Yeah, those are done. So I will plate it as if I were a chef, but I'm not. Here we go. A bowl, let's see. Maybe a shallow bowl. Just And then a little bit, my little flower of dill. That's picture worthy. You'll see that on Facebook tomorrow. All right, so that concludes my cooking demonstration. I'm just going to keep this on, put it on a super low simmer for just like another few minutes. And then I'm going to shut it off. But I would be happy with that, like as it is.
Can you hold the bowl up to the camera a little more so we can get full soup vision? Oh yeah, I'll be right there for my bowl.
Yeah. It's delicious. And I think a lot of people are like, beets are weird. I've heard people say they taste like dirt. What you just have to trust the process. You saw how easy it was to make.
Yes,
Give it a try.
it looks awesome. Anybody got any more questions? Sandra, did you want to share your screen so they can
Yes,
see
I
your stuff?
do.
Yes.
Yeah, before I do that, so I showed you guys that. That's important. When you go on our website, you'll see information about Plant Docs and the different programs we offer. There's 5 different MDs and DOs that are part of Plant Docs. We have these cooking programs once a month. We have something called Jumpstart Your Health, which is a 1-month program, which is amazing, the transformation that I see in people. We take about 20 people at a time. We draw labs before and after to look and assess for cholesterol, diabetes, fatty liver disease, and inflammation. And if anything's abnormal to begin with, we repeat it. We also get baseline weights and blood pressures. And during the month, we teach people how to eat whole food, plant-based, cut out the animal products, the processed foods, the sugar, the oils, to just eat really like healthfully and clean. And it's so powerful. We've been collecting data and we're going to be publishing it in a journal. So that's called Jumpstart Your Health. And then I also do private consultations one-on-one, and we have a program for cancer survivors. And I will share my screen with my contact information. We're in Rhode Island, but everything we do can be done remotely. So we have participants from all over the country that do our Jumpstart Your Health and our cooking classes. Our cooking classes are all remote. So yeah, I'm a, Facebook and Instagram. I try to keep it interesting. I have a YouTube channel, which I think the Borscht is on that. Not as good as this one. And our handle is Plant Docs for all of that. You can email me personally to Sandy, SANDY, at plantdocs.com, or info@plantdocs.com will get to me. And then our website is www.plantdocs.com. And I just have a couple minutes, so let me see if I can. Is that okay if I share the website for a second?
Oh yes, please do.
Okay, cool. Let me see, get rid of this bar. So plantdocs.com. And so this is our website. And I just want to show you that, we have a veggie burger class coming up. That just pops up. And this just talks about our programs. But if you go under programs, this is Jumpstart Your Health. That's the 1-month program that I was telling you about. The next one's in September. These are the virtual cooking classes. The next one's the veggie burger one on June 23rd. We do corporate programs, everything I was just telling you about. But here's the other part I want to show you. So this is free, plant-based nutrition if you go to recipes. This has all these delicious, healthful recipes. And every single ingredient, this is what I just want to stress, has a gift for your body. There is not one ingredient in any of our recipes that promotes elevated cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. Everything in our recipes is good for you. So help yourself to that. And also the the videos are somewhere. Cooking tutorials, I think, is all of our videos that are on YouTube, but you can also find them on the YouTube channel. Oh, look, cooking with beets. All right, there's up front and center, but yeah. So, and they're amateur. I'm not a chef, and these are like my own editing. So, it is what it is, but I think they're fun, and I try to make cooking easy and cooking healthy easy. So I will stop sharing and just see if there's any questions before we go. Shutting off my soup.
Somebody says they love the Plant Docs cooking classes. Awesome. I'll have to check them out. Fun. All right. If nobody else has any questions, we're going to end this. And I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Sandra. This was awesome.
One more thing. I'm just seeing I must have misspoke and said .org, but it's .com. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, guys. Thank you. We
All
will see you next class. Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Stop recording.